Hello and welcome to Down and Dirty with Darci. I'm your host, Darci Smith, also known as Career Coach Darci. We are here to get down and dirty about careers, uncovering salaries, wild stories, backgrounds, and more from guests with some of the most eccentric professions each week. This podcast is presented by Onomy. What? It's working. Welcome back to Down and Dirty with Darci. Because everyone wrote in and was like, I just want to hear more of Sam. I said, here he is in the flesh. Sam, you are here. You've arrived. Raimi will be back next week. So for those of you that are wanting more Raimi, she is currently in Japan. And I'm jealous. Yeah. And it looks amazing. Raimi travels. Go check her out.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't want to see my face anymore, just listen to the audio version.
Yeah, but I look pretty good today because that sounds stupid. I did get my hair done and I'm feeling myself. So if you would like to look at me on YouTube, you can put a Post-it note over Sam's face and just look how beautiful I am.
That's true. Very fair. Face made for
I thought you were going to say
here.
That's true. You look great. I was just waiting for the compliment that did not come.
No, you look amazing. Come on. We talked about this before we hopped on, everyone. She looks great.
Yeah, I just want him to
go check her out on YouTube
again.
and subscribe.
And subscribe. Okay, so I'm at my co-working space because, as you guys know, I had mushrooms growing out of my walls, therefore a lot of mold. So they're like demoing the entire house and I don't know what it's called, re-flashing, re-siding, whatever. Construction talk, you know?
I have no idea.
But the point here is,
I'm the wrong guy to ask about that stuff.
Yeah, we won't ask you. The point here is that I have a latte in my hand, even though it's 3 p.m. because when this co-working space has a free latte machine and it's dangerous. Like I can't stop. This is my 1, 2, 3. This is my number 4 of the day. Like I can't stop.
That's intense. Well, that's actually like, I feel like a lot of co-working spaces, because I go to one a lot too, and they're like free coffee, free snacks, free beer, free wine. And I'll like have like one coffee maybe. I never take advantage of like the beers or the wines. I feel like I need to hit that up a little bit more.
Yeah, you need to take advantage. And that's the thing. If they just had coffee, like plain coffee, that wouldn't feed my addiction. But the fact that I can just get espresso after espresso.
Yeah.
Danger.
Just keep it going.
You know what else was dangerous is when I grew up, I had a lot of pets. And I'm curious that they were a danger to society. I have this in my notes because I really wanted to ask you. Did you have any cool pets growing up? Like, snails or ferrets? What did you get?
Ferrets? I feel like the ferret thing, you just made me think of The Big Lebowski. Have you seen The Big Lebowski?
No, and I feel like that's a staple that everyone should have seen.
Oh, man.
But I have no idea what it is. I've just heard of the name.
Yeah, there's a part when he throws a ferret. Someone throws a ferret into the Big Lebowski's like bathtub. He's like in the bathtub. Anyway, great scene, great movie. Check it out. The Big Lebowski, one of the top movies of all time. So my family, we were very random. We had hermit crabs when I was a really little kid. So
how many?
That's definitely an odd pet. I think 3. We went to a flea market and we bought hermit crabs. I don't remember any of their names. One of them was named Mr. Bigglesworth, though, after the cat in Austin Powers. And shout out Austin Powers, top 5 movie of all time, if not top 1. But yeah, that was probably the weirdest pet that we had. I mean, other than that, you just, a dog. Not as cool as what you had, I assume. I think everyone wants to hear your pets.
Not as cool, but also quick tangent. Are you jealous that I've hugged Mike Myers?
What? Yes.
Yeah, baby. Totally have hugged Mike
Wait, was
Myers.
that your Austin Powers accent?
Did I get it? Yeah, baby.
Oh my God.
I'm crying.
What's this? This is going on the socials.
This is going on the socials.
Darci Powers.
I did hug Mike Myers. And that is my claim to fame.
Yes, I'm jealous.
Yeah. I was a young lad, but nevertheless, I do have a photo with him and we were hugging and that's that. So moving on to my pets. I had 6 hamsters. And I feel like,
Holy crap. 6 at once?
yeah, oddly enough, this really ties back to Mike Myers. So I didn't realize that I was going to make this connection. But when I was a young child, I was a dancer. We've been over this. And my parents would reward me with things if I booked jobs. So I was on an audition to be a background dancer for Will Smith. And I told them if I booked the job, I really wanted a hamster. And so my mom was like, sure, if you get this job, which I think in her head, she probably thought I wasn't going to get it. So she's like, if you get this job, you can have a hamster. And so I got the job. And that is at that concert, the Will Smith concert, is where I met Mike Myers. Okay, full circle. So
Oh my God.
so I have this hamster, and I named her Roxanne, which I don't know where I came up with that name as like, I don't know, an 8-year-old. So I have this hamster. She ends up having babies. She was pregnant at the pet store. And so when we brought her home, she ends up having babies. So then she has 5 babies. And actually 6. She had 6 babies. So we had 7 hamsters at one point. Then I called the vet, or my mom called the vet, was like, what do we do? So then they told us we have to get separate cages for them because they'll start fighting. The mom will eat the babies, all these things. So the mom,
Jesus.
the mom ate one of the babies because that's what they do to protect them, I guess.
Oh my God.
Just kidding.
They eat them?
Yeah. You haven't heard about this? It's a real thing.
No.
So she ate one of them and we're like, oh, this is a real thing. We really got to get. So we had like all these cages. We had like tubes that connected them. We were a full hamster house and my mom was just miserable. So yeah, we ended up having 5 hamsters.
Oh my God. I can't believe they ate them. They ate their own kid. It's like Lord of the Hamsters.
Lord of the Hamsters. 2 survived, Buster and Carla. So I had Buster, Carla, and Roxanne. And yes, I named them all. And then I had 2 turtles. So that was fun.
Wow.
I also had like 18 fish that just kept dying. But we had a huge tank.
I had fish.
Yeah.
I had like a goldfish.
Oh.
Yeah, they all died.
Lame.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really just want to tell the hamster story because I feel like when you're a kid, your parents are always like, no, like my parents didn't want to get a dog and that was like their big thing. And so they're just kind of like letting me do these little fish and, whatever. I think hermit crabs were a big one. They were weird to try and pet, but I had a lot of friends that had hermit crabs. They were pretty fun to let like race them.
You didn't have hermit crabs though?
I never did. No, my friend Shelby had them and we used to race them. But that's about it.
Oh, nice. The coolest thing was when they got really big and you like put like a new shell or something in their little cage or whatever, and they would transfer over to the new one.
Oh, wow.
On their own.
Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah, because when they outgrow the little one, they had to like go get a bigger one. Yeah, that was good.
That's so cute.
Hold on. There were only 2 baby hamsters left, so did the mom eat all the other ones?
It's survival of the fittest. They had some fights. And I don't know if my house was the incubator for hamsters. So I don't think we quite oh my gosh, wait. I just got a core memory just popped into my brain. My friend and I, shout out Becky, she used to come over and we would like feed the hamsters and stuff.
Shout out Becky.
And one time we were like, well, let's just try like one of their treats. Like it might be good. And so we tried like one of their little white chip treats. And I swear, I swear to you, it tasted like one of those like yogurt chips that you would get at like a yogurt shop or you put into things, like a little white yogurt chip. And then from that point on, I just kept eating them. I would eat them as candy and a snack because like my mom didn't really give us sweets. So I would go into there and like eat the hamster treats as candy.
Oh my God. That's core memory.
Core. I totally forgot about it.
Wow.
Until right now.
Eating hamster treats?
Yeah. But they were so good.
Wow.
I hope anyone listening knows what I'm talking about because it's a very particular brand and it was really good. I've tried a lot of treats. I've tried my dog's treats all the time. I always want to make sure I might like it.
Really?
All the time.
Wow.
There's this like cheat.
I've never tried my dog's treats, but
really?
I eat my kids' food.
There you go.
My son. Yeah.
I don't.
He's got like these Cheeto things, but they're covered in peanut butter dust instead of cheese.
Ooh.
They are so freaking good.
Send me
Highly
send
recommend
me
in
the
the world.
link. Send me the link to those.
I'll be hooking you up. I'll be
Yeah.
putting them in the comments. They're
Yeah.
called Bombas, not the
Bombas.
socks.
Shout
But
out.
the shout out Bombas, come sponsor us.
Top 5.
Also, but yeah, those yogurt things you're talking about though, also give those to my kid. Maybe they're just hamster treats.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll look it up and I'll send you the link in case you want to try them. And maybe that's what got me here today. Maybe that's why I'm so smart. And
That's true.
speaking of being very
Just,
smart,
you know,
I
if you end up having kids, by the way, just don't eat them.
the kids. The kids.
You.
Like I don't eat the kids. Is that the don't?
Yeah, don't eat your kids.
Okay. Noted.
That's,
let me
I
write
don't know what
let me
parents would
write
do,
that
but
one down.
yeah, write that down. Do not
Oh
eat
my God.
kids. I'll put it on my whiteboard back
Oh
here.
my gosh. Yeah, the whiteboard that never has anything on it.
Yeah, yes.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, let's just jump in. Let's jump right into the career column. Here we go. So
Let's do it.
this week, I really want to focus on LinkedIn because I did post something to my Instagram about maxing out the skills that are on your LinkedIn. So you can put up to 50 skills on your LinkedIn. And I was telling people to do that. And I got a ton of messages that were like, I don't know what skills to put. I never do that section. What are you talking about? Why does it matter? So I want to just do a quick run through of what should be on your LinkedIn and what it actually means when people say optimize your LinkedIn. Because I think this is the number one tool when it comes to like getting a job. It is way undervalued, and it's not about being a social media tool. It's about being something that's a snapshot of what and who you are, and people can find you. So starting with a profile picture, please smile on your profile picture. It's more engaging. It's important. If you go back to last week's episode, you'll know why. Blank background behind you is super important. I see a ton of like it seems like people are at a lot of weddings and they just cut other people out. Let's not do that. Let's just take one with your phone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you've seen that, right?
Guilty over here. I have my old photo is just of me in like a wedding photo booth.
Oh, yeah. See? I also see
it was me like this. And then next to me there was like my wife who had like a horse head mask on, but I cropped her out.
Yeah, so it's just like part of the horse head.
It's just like the snout is like poking me in the face.
Oh,
no,
man.
but that's actually what I did.
Yeah.
I feel like, sorry to interrupt. Side note, really quickly, I know why people do that. It's because like you go somewhere and there's professional photography, so like it looks better than maybe other photos that you have, but like,
right.
It doesn't it doesn't really work for LinkedIn. I agree with you.
Right. I would say just put your timer on your phone and literally set it up. You want it from your chest up, so not just like a super selfie, and just easy breezy, beautiful cover girl smile, and that's about it. And then the headline, this is super important. The headline underneath your photo, it auto generates to just having whatever your current title is matched with the company you're working at. So yours would say like founder at Onomy if it just says that, right? Or co-founder at Onomy if that's what your title is. So what you want to do is change that and actually put in key or buzzwords so your profile is optimized. I read an article that is the first thing that's pulled when people are searching on LinkedIn. So it's actually pulling from that headline. So the keywords are, if you're in data, or if you're in, let's say you're an Excel wizard, or things that are really important to you in your job, that should be at that beginning headline. So if we just take, for instance, like an administrative assistant, people that are in that role, it's really generalized. So they always ask me like, I don't know what to put up there. I'm an admin assistant. I do a lot of things. I would emphasize what you do mostly. So if it's calendar management, if it's scheduling for C-level executives, put that type of buzzword information and keyword in the headline. Possibly pick about 3 phrases, like 2 or 3 phrases that depicts what you're doing, and also have your title. So administrative assistant focused on Outlook calendar management. Then you'd put like a separator. There's that like up and down line that I need to learn the name of, but you would separate it and then put, travel plans for C-level executives, yada, yada, yada. Am I making sense? Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah, one thing I'll just add is that I think that headline auto generates when you first create your LinkedIn profile,
Right.
but I don't think it updates automatically if you switch jobs. Because I always see people who have like 3 jobs ago, it still says like software engineer at like company from
3 years.
12
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
And because they never update their LinkedIn and like they don't realize that they need to update stuff besides just their job description. So like a lot of people have not just like info that isn't optimized in the way that you're describing, but info that's actually like outdated and will not help you at all.
Right. That's a hot take. Yeah, I agree. Moving down into the about me section, this is definitely preference, but I'll give you my advice on it. Especially if you're someone, there's two different types of people that are selling things. So I would be someone that has a profile that sells career coaching. So mine's going to look a little bit different than someone that's trying to work at a company. So most people listening are probably thinking about what they should put on it when they're looking for a new job or they're at a current job. So what you want to do is you want to have 3 paragraphs in that section. Each paragraph should have about 2 to 3 sentences. You don't want it to be super long. The first paragraph is 2 to 3 sentences explaining what you're currently doing and currently working on. Any recruiter looking at your profile wants to know what tools you're currently using, why they should hire you right now, because it's relevant information. The second paragraph should have what your skills and strengths are. So this is where you can get a little bit deeper into exactly what you have used in the past or what you consider yourself to be. And then that third paragraph is where you can get a little bit more human and personalize it. So you can say something like, outside of work, I really enjoy playing golf and walking my 3 dogs, or something like that. You'll see people, maybe put stuff about their family or where they just recently traveled to. It's just an opportunity to create that human connection. And that way, when people reach out to you, they have something to mention. I think mine talks about how I'm amazing at pickleball. So I've gotten a ton of messages of people kind of using that to reach out to me, and I freaking love it. So that is kind of the layout for the About Me section. Are you looking at yours right now? I feel like you're looking at something else.
I am looking at it. I'm looking at it.
Is it bad?
I I I mailed in the about me section because I hate it.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I'm just
Now you have a
I just like
template.
I find it really, yeah, I think the way that you just described it is like you just made something click in my brain because I've always struggled with the about me section because it's like I don't really know what to put there.
Right.
Um and I think the way that you just described it is very, very accurate. I mean, what's your take on like keywords and stuff too? Because a lot of the time people will search by keywords or skills or something like that.
Right.
Like I you mentioned it more in the headline, but what about like jamming some of those keywords into the about me section?
Yeah, it's never going to hurt to have the keywords because recruiters and hiring teams can search and it can pull from everything on the LinkedIn. So regardless of where you have it, it's going to pull it. And there's actually something. So I'm a recruiter, so I actually have the LinkedIn recruiter. Like it's a whole different thing than just regular LinkedIn.
Oh yeah.
So when I search, I can actually search by keyword. I can search by skill. So that's pulling directly from the skills. But if I search by keyword and you have some of those in your About Me, that helps. And I would plug those in specifically in that second paragraph that I was talking about. If you're not able to plug them in that first one on what you're currently doing, that would be ideal. But let's say you're like, oh, I kind of want to move into something or I'm pivoting. That's when you would throw it into somewhere else. So it still pops up on your profile. So you're still getting that traction. And you can say something like passionate about getting into data science or passionate about moving my career into X, Y, and Z. So you're showing that transition,
Right.
and you're still putting it on your profile. And so today, when I mentioned about putting the skills, when I search, I just make it easy on myself. I use that skills filter because I know it's probably eliminating a lot of people that haven't filled out their skills section. But what do I care? Because I'm still pulling a ton of people and I need to filter that smaller from a recruiter standpoint. So I'm filtering that by putting in a very specific skill or a certification that I need someone to have. And then I'm getting more like 100 to 200 people pop up instead of thousands. So if you're not someone that's putting these skills or certifications or assessments on your profile, you're missing out on getting yourself to pop up in those searches. And you're going to pop up in the right searches if you have the right skills, and you're not going to get reached out to by recruiters who don't quite know what you're good at. And then you're getting annoyed because you're getting all these messages from recruiters that are sending you stuff that don't even make sense for your profile. So
Yeah.
The more tailored, the better. And the last thing I'll say about LinkedIn, and obviously this is a very quick recap, but the last thing I'll say is there's also a section where you can put in projects. So if you're someone that doesn't have a ton of experience in terms of work, you can look on my profile. I have a project on there from when I did a ERP SAP project in grad school. So you can actually put in a project that you did in college, and that's helpful as well. So there's a lot of sections on the LinkedIn. I really recommend trying to fill out as many as possible, but at least you have kind of a basis of where to go. And I think the headline and the About Me section is definitely the hardest. So I wanted to recap those for our career column this week. So
Love it.
awesome.
I love it. 2 quick questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I have one comment on the projects and one question. So the projects, one thing I always like to see in projects, because I do a lot of hiring, especially as a co-founder of Onomy, and I'm always looking at LinkedIn candidates because that's where we post most of our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I love if you have something public facing and you're able to link to it.
Yes.
Like if there's been press about something that you've worked on or something like that you can link to, it shows up really nicely and very prominently on LinkedIn a lot of the time. And it's an easy thing for someone to just click into and look at, which I think is really cool.
Yes.
So my question is, what's your take about the experience section and like treating one tip, maybe like, should you treat that like a resume? I think is something that a lot of people are curious about. At least people who have asked me in the past, or like I often see too, like one sentence about the experience and that specific job, or some people don't fill it out at all and just have their titles. So what do you think?
Right. It's definitely preference, but the best rule of thumb is to have something in between. So don't have nothing and then don't have your entire resume. The whole point of LinkedIn is for it to feel like a snapshot, not to feel overwhelming to people. But if someone finds your LinkedIn and they don't have access to your resume, they need to see at least some of the information of what you're doing and what you're working with and how you've been successful. So my recommendation is to have 2 to 4 bullet points max, and especially on at least the current position that you're in. The other ones aren't quite as important. I don't really think people are even really caring, but especially the current position, definitely have about 2 to 3 bullet points, but you don't need to copy and paste your resume.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you just said reminded me of a saying that someone said to me once about like presenting or like selling something, which is like use the first 15 seconds to win the next 45 seconds. And maybe you like treat your LinkedIn the same way, like give whoever might be finding you just enough info to show that you have crushed a certain job or had like a major impact on certain projects. Like maybe there's like some impactful info or background that you might include on your resume in addition to a lot of more detail, but give them just enough to make them interested and want to potentially reach out to you.
Definitely. I love that. I've never heard that saying, but I'm going to use it myself now. So, wahaha.
I like it.
I like it.
It's yours now.
Cool.
Pay it forward. Let's go.
Yeah. Is that the end of your questions?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
I just had the one about experience. I
Cool.
love it.
Well, I want to talk about our guest this week because we have
Let's do it.
2 amazing guests, and it's probably going to rock your world because they are sex therapists and they literally get down and dirty. They talk about anything and everything. I literally asked them what their favorite sex position is. Like, we went so deep and they are so amazing and so open. They have a new book out. We talk all about it. And I just got to know them so well. I found them on Instagram and literally DM'd them. I was like, do you guys want to come on my podcast? Like Vanessa and Xander. Sorry, I see it's with an X. And so it always it messes with my brain.
Yeah.
I'm like, Xander. But yeah, they were so cool, so amazing to have on the podcast. And I'm so excited for you guys to listen. So let's get into the episode.
Let's do it. Woo!
Can I ask what your favorite sex positions are?
The reality is that within each of these positions, there are tons of variations that you can make, little things that you can play with that change the way it feels really drastically.
But also he just really likes cowgirl because he likes the pillow princess.
Welcome back to Down and Dirty with Darci. I have Vanessa and Xander here, and I'm so excited to speak with them. I'm gonna pass the mic to them. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourselves?
So we are Vanessa and Xander Marin. We're a married couple. We've been together for over 15 years now. And I am a sex therapist. And Xander's official title is
I'm a regular dude. I used to work in the consulting world. I used to work in tech until one day I realized it was a lot more fun to sit at home and talk about sex with my wife all day. So
Hell
here I
yeah.
am.
So we have a business where we really specialize in helping couples keep the spark alive in their long-term relationships. And we do that through our guides and courses. We have a podcast. We show up a lot on Instagram. And we just wrote a book called Sex Talks, the 5 conversations that will transform your love life.
Oh, can we talk a little bit more about that right now? Let's just dive right in. What sparked you guys to write the book, and like what is like the main thing that people can get from it when they're reading it?
The initial idea to write the book came from our own struggles in our relationship. So like most couples, we started off really hot and heavy. The chemistry was just clicking between the two of us. It felt like we were very compatible. And then we got a couple years into the relationship. Things started slowing down. Life started getting really busy, and we just were not having very much sex. The sex that we were having didn't feel very exciting, and it felt really scary to both of us. Like, what happened to this very vibrant, sexy, compatible couple that we used to be? What happened to ourselves? And we struggled big time to talk about it. A lot of the lessons that we ended up sharing in the book were learned from doing the exact opposite thing and having it go terribly. So once we figured out how to talk about sex in our own relationship, we got really inspired to share that with other people. And we've been doing that on our Instagram and, with our community for the last few years. And people just keep giving us feedback of like, once we follow these tips, once we start talking about sex in the way that you guys do, it's been totally transformative for our relationship. So we thought, we're onto something here. We got to put this into a book.
Yeah. So ultimately, this is the book that we wish someone had handed us, 12, 13 years ago when we started struggling. So we tried to make it as simple and straightforward as possible. These are the 5 conversations you need to have to fire things up or turn things around.
Yeah, I love that. Just to share a little bit about, like, I'm in a relationship. We've been together for almost 7 years now. And so I like the ebbs and flows 100%, especially when like you throw in trying to create businesses. So I can only imagine. But I feel like the conversations around sex are always so awkward. And what do you tell people when they're like, I want to bring it up, like we don't have it enough, or I want it to change? What do you tell people when they say that to you guys, or when you see those comments on your pages?
Well, this is actually one of the main mistakes that we make with sex, is that we do feel so awkward and uncomfortable that we wait until something is wrong. And then we're hurt, we're upset, we feel even worse about it. And we try to have a conversation. It turns into a big fight. It does feel awkward and uncomfortable. And that just leaves us not wanting to talk about sex even more.
Yeah.
So the first conversation in the book is a totally different approach. We wanted to ease people into this instead. So we think that it's more useful to get comfortable with sex as a general topic of conversation.
Before anything's wrong, even if something feels like it's wrong, like waiting to talk about that until you start out with this conversation.
So the first conversation in the book is called acknowledgement, aka sex is a thing, we have it. So it's just getting comfortable with sex as a topic of conversation. So one very practical way to do that would be to think of one of your favorite sexual memories with your partner and then share that with them. So face-to-face is great. If you're feeling shy, you can totally do it over text message too, but just share that memory. So you're not doing anything else, no complaints. You're not trying to solve any problems. You're not even initiating sex with this. It's literally just sharing, like, I thought about that time that we went on that anniversary trip and that thing that we did together. So you're just starting to create that positive foundation of communication.
I love that so much. Like, I mean, to stop the podcast right now, that was like a hot take. But like, seriously, I'm like, I think everyone listening can resonate with that. I know when so I was a virgin up until 26. And so Ryan was my first partner. And so it was always very like a weird dance for me of like, I'm a very open person in general, as you can maybe see, but the sex stuff was always a little bit weird for me. So this is why I love this so much and like having these conversations. But I've noticed that just like what you said, having just the simple like, hey, when you did that or when we did this together, like that was fun. And then it's like, then that sparks something else, right? So I love that. So just to go back, how did you even get into like sex? Because you were a therapist before going into like the sex therapy route, correct? And now obviously you guys own this business together, but like, can you walk me back from the beginning of how this all kind of transpired?
The reason that I'm a sex therapist is because of my parents' incredibly awkward attempt at giving me the talk. So basically, their version of it was to tell me, if you have any questions about, sex, you can ask us. But it was very clear in the moment that what they were actually saying is, please, for the love of God, do not ask us anything about this. We don't want to talk about this. This topic is off the table.
I'm sure so many people have had that exact same conversation or lack thereof.
Right.
And so I had no idea that this was a career in that moment, but I was very struck in that moment by how uncomfortable they were, how awkward it was. And I actually really did want to talk about sex. I had a lot of questions. I was hearing things on the playground. I didn't know if they were true or not. And so it was disappointing for me to not be able to have that conversation. So that moment stuck with me as I got older. And I just kept coming back to this idea of like, why is it so hard for us to talk about sex? And eventually realized I can create a career out of this.
Yeah, amazing. And then you did that for how long? Because you were doing
I actually did it kind of in reverse. So I knew I always wanted to do sex therapy, but there is no traditional career path for becoming a sex therapist. One of the little secrets of the sex therapy world is that even the title is not regulated. So you could decide to call yourself a sex therapist tomorrow and there's no regulatory board that's going to come after you.
What?
So there's no defined path. So I really struggled with, okay, how am I going to create this career if there's not this specific set of training that I needed to get? So I went to Brown University for undergraduate because at the time they had one of like 3 programs in human sexuality. So I thought, okay, I'm going to study sex. I'll figure out how to make this into a career after that. And so I sort of was playing with 2 options. I could go the medical route, be like an OBGYN and kind of address sex more from the medical standpoint, or I could go more in the therapy route and address it like from that more psychological level. And I really struggled with that for about 6 years. And then finally decided, I think I want to do the therapy route. I want that foundation in communication myself so that I can help people talk about it more openly. So I decided to go back to graduate school, got my master's degree in counseling psychology, and then became a licensed psychotherapist after that.
Amazing. And then how long have you guys been running the business together?
We have been working together since 2016, so 7 years now.
How is that in the bedroom, having a business together, running everything, trying to also balance a normal relationship, and then you also talk about your relationship so openly? Do you feel like that's been even tougher?
I mean, there are definitely challenges of working together, but one of the questions people always ask us is, well, don't you ever get tired of talking about sex? Like that must make your own sex life suffer that you're talking about it all the time. And
no,
we realize it's really the opposite, which is another selling point for the book.
Yeah. I mean, pro tip in general, when you talk about sex, you generally want to have more of it. It's not the type of it's not the type of thing where the more you talk about it, the less you want to have it. So that's a good thing. But no, I mean, early on, we definitely struggled in terms of like how to actually be good coworkers as well as partners. For me, I came from the corporate world, and so I was very used to more formal communication, a more like formal relationship between a boss and an employee. And so for me, that was a bit of a learning curve coming into, okay, like I'm not in a corporate environment anymore. Like I'm working with my wife and my best friend, and so I can't expect the same type of communication, or like, oh, I'm just going to shoot off this email or throw something on the calendar.
Let's circle back.
So that was definitely a learning curve. But, a lot of it was, stuff that we learned that translated to just our relationship in general, or having better communication when we were in conflict and stuff like that. So, now we talk about a lot of those tips when it comes to just how to be a good communicator with your partner.
Right. And one thing I loved about when I was reading on your website, it was like, yes, we talk about sex, of course, but there's so much more that goes into like the in between the sheets that's happening outside of the bedroom. And so a lot of what you guys have courses, right? And like things that people can help their communication. Can you talk to us a little bit about like some of the offerings you guys have on that people could go find on your website if they're kind of more interested in just about like bettering, whether it's their relationship or as a single person, whatever the case?
Yeah, so the second conversation in Sex Talks is actually all about that emotional connection. Like, what do we need to feel close to each other so that when we get into bed at the end of the night, we don't feel like strangers to each other? Like, who the hell are you? I don't want to have sex with you.
Yeah.
So that's in our book. You can find that at sextalksbook.com. We have all the links to the major retailers that sell it. And if you come back to that page and fill in your order information, we'll send you a free workbook that goes along with it. And then all of our guides and courses are over at vmtherapy.com. It's my initials, vmtherapy.com. So we have guides from everything for like, we have our ultimate foreplay guides, we have next level intercourse, and those are very practical, like step-by-step technique-based guides. And then we also have challenges. We have a sex challenge and a connection challenge that are like daily activities that you can do to increase intimacy with your partner. So those are just a couple of them. We have a ton of stuff, and it's really fun to just go through together and see what catches your eye.
Yeah. And plus, that seems like such an easy way to bring up the conversation. Like, it's almost like if you're feeling uncomfortable about it, you could buy one of those guides or one of those things as a, almost like, I don't want to say joke, but almost as like a lighthearted way to bring it up. Like, oh my gosh, I bought this, or I got gifted this, right? Just pretend you didn't buy it. I got gifted this. Let's look at it together and like talk through what we like and don't like. Cause I feel like, the second you start talking about it, like you said, you want to have sex, right? What, and you can not answer this if you don't want to, but like, what's your guys's, like, how often are you guys having sex? Is that too
That is
forward?
actually one of the very few questions that we won't answer, because we've found, everybody's obsessed with this idea of like, how much sex should we be having? Right. And it's really understandable because, sex can feel very complex in a relationship, and it would be so nice to have something very clear, like a number. Just tell me the number as long as we're having sex 3 times a week or 2 times a week, like we're good. But the reality is that having sex just to hit a quota does not feel good. And there really isn't a magic number that works for everybody. Like, we have talked to couples who have sex a couple times a year, and it's amazing sex, and they feel so connected, and it works for them. And we've talked to couples who have sex multiple times a day, and they feel disconnected, and it's not enjoyable. So there is no magic number.
Yeah, I mean, of course we want to focus on that magic number, but what we always find is that if you focus on the quality instead, which, granted, it's a little more challenging. It's not just a simple quota or number that you have to hit, but if you focus on the quality, the better quality sex you're having, the more sex you're likely going to want to have, and the more satisfied you're going to be, so that you're not really focused on what is the number. But I will say, because people still want to know about numbers, we've done some research. We've polled our Instagram audience a number of times. At this point, I think we have about 70,000 responses, and the vast majority of people are having sex in these 3 buckets in very even amounts. So between 2 to 3 times a month, once a week, and 2 to 3 times a week. It's about 25, 25, 25. So, and the really interesting thing there is that between those 3 groups, we didn't see any big differences in satisfaction. So it's not like, oh, the more you have it, the happier you're going to be. It's, if you are having better sex, you're naturally going to be happier with the amount that you're having. You're going to fall into that natural frequency that's right for you.
No, that makes perfect sense. And thank you for giving me some numbers. I appreciate that. But I also like getting it from the community too, is like, that's so real. And I love that you don't answer that, because not one size fits all. So how are you going to sit there? And then now people are looking up to you like, oh, they have sex this many times, I should do that. That doesn't work. But I am going to still pry. So let's get into it. What's your favorite? Can I ask what your favorite sex positions are?
Yeah,
And
for
they might
sure.
change, obviously, but
I'm a big fan of doggy style.
okay.
I think that can be very fun, feel very animalistic. It's just a good old standby.
And I'm gonna, people might say I sound really boring saying this, but I for me it's a toss up between missionary and cowgirl. But so here's the thing, and we go into this in our next level intercourse guide where we break down, I think it's like 42 or 48 different positions. The
Whoa.
reality is that within, within each of these positions, there are tons of variations that you can make, little things that you can play with that change the way it feels really drastically. And so, those two are some of my favorites because there are a lot of opportunities for little adjustments that can make it really fun and, effectively feel like you're doing like 5 to 10 different positions in one. So that's why I love those
But
two.
also he just really likes cowgirl because he likes to pillow princess.
True.
I totally listened to that episode, by the way, of the missionary. I think it was a recent episode, right? And you were talking about because you can do so many different like types of positions with that one position. So I'm all for that. I totally agree. I love it. So as a couple and like working together and doing what you do, what's your favorite like aspect of being able to do this together?
For me, it's hearing the impact that we're having on people's lives. I think people are just so desperate for open and honest conversations about sex. It's something that it still is pretty rare these days. And so being able to hear back from people, sometimes it's even the simplest things, like just watching your Instagram stories made me feel like I'm normal and not alone. Or it's, just today I got a message from a woman who took our 30-day sex challenge, and she said she and her husband were on the brink of divorce and now they're like happier than they've ever been. So being able to hear these small and huge ways that we've changed people's lives, I just like, there's no cooler feeling in the world to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And in addition to that, I really love getting to show up on social with Vanessa. Like we get to have a lot of fun together, and I just think it's so cool these days, the opportunities that you have to engage with people, on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever the medium is. I think it's so cool. And, like back when you started your psychotherapy practice, like there just wasn't really that ability to reach so many people, to have a conversation with so many people. So I think it's really amazing, being able to use those platforms to actually really, be a force for good in the world.
Yeah, definitely. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine for Vanessa specifically, it might have been a little bit easier to transition into the social media world, not coming from like such that corporate background. But like for you, Xander, coming from that corporate background, did you ever have that fear of like showing up on social media? Especially, it's one thing to show up on social media and another thing to show up talking about sex, right? So
Oh, yeah.
how did you guys like get through kind of like that? I don't know if it was embarrassment for you at all or that cringy feeling, but like, yeah, how was that?
Well, for me, my biggest challenge was, I've been with Vanessa we're coming on 16 years being together, and I saw how many years of time went into her studying to become a psychotherapist and to build up this business. And so for me, I was like, first of all, when she was asking me if I wanted to get more involved in social, I was like, what do I have to say? Like, you've put in your time. Like I haven't done anything. I don't have any experience. People aren't going to want to hear from me. But the reality was I realized over time, as she got me more and more involved with like a story here and a story there, it was like, oh, people actually do want to know what it is like for you as like a husband, as a partner, as a man. So just being able to kind of be like, well, this is how it works in our relationship. And seeing the impact that was having, that, she let me ease in with it and just doing a little here and there. And she was really good at sharing a lot of the positive feedback, and that helped me really feel at ease. But you've been on your own journey around showing up on social too.
Yeah, with my psychotherapy training, we're taught to be very closed off. Like when you do therapy, your therapist is not like, oh, girl, let me tell you about my hard day too, right? Like we're supposed to be professional. We don't share anything about ourselves. Like in some forms of therapy, you're not even really supposed to react at all.
Yeah.
So when I first started branching into creating this online business and showing up on social media, I was very nervous about, how do I come across as still being professional and this psychotherapist, and I want people to take me seriously. And so the content that we created for years was very boring, to be totally honest with you. Like it was very stuffy and, very academic, and our account did not grow at all.
And we had it in our heads as well. Like, well, people aren't going to want to follow a sex therapist, right? Like maybe things are a little different on Instagram now, but a number of years ago, it was much easier for like your friends to see what you were liking and what you were commenting on and stuff. And we're like, no one's going to want to, put themselves on the record as like, oh, hey, I'm struggling with this too. And so we came at it with that mindset. And so, of course, the stuff we ended up putting up, didn't get a lot of traction. Like we weren't expecting people to want to engage, and therefore they didn't engage.
Yeah. So I had to go through my own journey of realizing, you know what, like I'm bored by this. I wouldn't want to follow myself. And this is such a fun topic that so many people want to talk about. So we started trying to be brave and share ourselves and be real and authentic. And of course, the second that you start being vulnerable and sharing your truth, that's what people actually respond to. So getting that feedback was really important for me too, to realize like, okay, I can break away from this model that I've been trained to follow and find my own path here.
Right. And when it comes to like this podcast is a lot about like business and how you created something and just like kind of having things that are not your typical 9-to-5. Did you always have an idea of what this was going to be? Or did you just say, we're going to start this and then we're going to like let it ride, see where it goes? Or like just for people that are listening, they're like, I know I want to start something, not sure what I want yet. Like, what was it like for you guys?
I really didn't know what it was going to look like because I hadn't seen any examples of other people doing this. So I knew I wanted to somehow work with people to help them have better sex, to talk about sex, but I didn't know what that could look like. So making the decision to go the therapy route was very hard, like I said. And, even once I had gone down that path, like my practice filled up really quickly. I couldn't take on any new clients, and I was seeing the same issues over and over again. I was giving the same advice over and over and over again. So I just started thinking like, how else could this business look? What else could I do to work with more people, to reach more people, to not just be limited to this therapy model? So it was really important to me, and it felt exciting to me to keep myself open to different possibilities of what this could grow into.
Yeah. And has it always been social media? Because when I started my business, I just was like, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to get on social media. I'm going to talk about the things I know that I consider myself an expert at. And then I'm going to open up opportunities to work with people and like see where it goes. Is that how you guys also started? Like Instagram, like social media?
Yeah, I started more with a blog, actually.
Okay.
A WordPress blog. I was like, okay, I'm going to start putting stuff out there, see how people respond. And then we started sharing like that blog content on social. But there did get to be a point about 10 years ago where I thought, I feel like there is a lot more potential for social to be a better place to connect with people. Because obviously, you can connect a lot easier than on blogs.
Yeah, but it took a long time. I mean, our business for a very long time was much more, email based. It was Vanessa did a lot of blog posts. She contributed to a lot of, articles that other people were writing. And she wrote a number of articles herself for various publications. And we built up an email list, and we used the email list to offer courses to and whatnot. And I would say it was sort of about 1.5 to 2 years ago that we really hit that inflection point where the social really grew beyond the email list. And that's kind of been, since then we've been more on this trajectory of like, we're on social every single day because we can reach a ton of people. We can have, more interesting, better conversations.
Yeah, those Instagram reels, man. Gotta keep them going. I love it. What is your guys' Instagram handle, just so people listening can go follow you?
It's Vanessa and Xander, and it's Xander with an X.
Perfect. Cool. And what's your favorite topic to talk about when it comes to sex?
definitely sexual communication. I mean, that's why we ended up writing Sex Talks, because it's something that we feel so strongly about. But I just love getting into the really nitty-gritty details, like giving people specific examples of, what to say and how to say it, these scripts to get them started. So I love that. But I also love technique too, because we all want to be great at sex, but we don't ever get the chance to learn anywhere. We just put this expectation on ourselves that we should immediately be incredible at it. And so I love getting into the details of how to have sex that nobody else talks about. Like, how do I transition in between these two sex positions and not make it weird or awkward? Or like, what exactly do I do with my hands when I'm giving a blowjob? Like, all those details are so fun to me.
And I'll throw one more. And one of the things that I've had the most fun with, and just I feel really good about, is we've done a number of reels and stuff on social, kind of like around body confidence, where Vanessa will point out things on her own body, like, do you see these love handles, or like this, like, do you see this cellulite here? And I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so just kind of trying to verbalize, like, what she sees versus what he sees, and opening up so many conversations for other couples to actually ask their partner, like, do you see this thing? Are you even aware of this thing that I'm thinking about day in and day out? And 99.9% of the time, the answer is no. Like, your partner has no idea what that is. Like, we see ourselves so differently from the way our partner sees us, and definitely the way everyone else in the world sees us. So I really enjoy talking about that as well.
Yeah, I feel like that's when you let that stuff go, especially in the bedroom. Like, I mean, it's like liberating too, to feel like, man, I would say as females, we definitely have like a hard on our body, and being in the bedroom, you're just constantly thinking like, oh, he's seeing that, or she's seeing that, or whoever it is, right? And so I love that you brought that up, because I think it's so important. And I follow you guys. I love following you guys. But I wanted to tell people how I even found you guys. It was actually from a follower of mine. I opened up recently on my Instagram about wanting or maybe not wanting to have children. And she was like, and she was like, I listened to their podcast, listened to this episode. They talk about their decision. I also bought the book that you guys recommended. And yeah, I was just like, that's how I found you guys from the beginning. And then I've just been following ever since. But
that's so cool. Yeah, that is our most listened to podcast episode. I think it's 37, is us talking about our decision to be child free, and just what that journey has been like for both of us. And it's another topic that people don't really talk about openly. I mean, I don't know what your particular experience has been, but we've faced a lot of judgment and criticism for that, where, and so it's just kind of fascinating, honestly, to see what people's reactions are to it. But it felt important to us to normalize that this is a valid life decision to make.
Super. Yeah. And I mean, when I was opening up about it, I've never had more story views, more DMs, more responses, and of like people just kind of, I mean, I'm so grateful and thankful that people are open to sharing their stories of like, maybe they had children and didn't necessarily plan on it, or maybe they have always wanted children and are having fertility issues. And like, my heart goes out to anyone in that situation. And at the same time, everyone should and can make their own decisions in terms of having children or not. So yeah, definitely. Their podcast is called Pillow Talks. So go listen. It's 37, you said that one? Yeah, it was really good. And just the podcast in general. So, but yeah, is there anything else that you guys would like to share in terms of what you're up to, what you're doing? I know we talked about the book, but, and you can buy the book everywhere?
Yeah, you can buy the book everywhere books are sold. Yeah, we have all the links to it at sextalksbook.com, just to make it nice and easy for you. But you can get it anywhere. And it's also available in Kindle and audiobook. We read the audiobook.
Did you guys do it? Yes, I love that.
It was so much work. Oh my God. But I'm really glad that we did. I think it's fun to get to hear it in our own voices.
Yeah, I love, I'm a big fan of when people do the audio themselves. So that's amazing and a lot of work. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And obviously go follow them, go listen, go buy the book. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to that Onomy podcast. Onomy is a creator-led educational platform that teaches you the things you wished you learned in school so you can thrive in adulthood. Onomy lessons are completely free, and they're taught by some of your favorite creators from around the internet. Head to onomy.co to start learning about things like budgeting, investing, taxes, how to thrive in your relationships, how to find your dream job, and so much more. That's onomy.co, onomy.co. See you there.